Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special edition of the Dash Cast. I am Curtis Dash, and joined with me, as always, is my co-host Brandon Colongo. Brandon, say a quick hello.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
Yeah, so we got a special guest here today on this special edition of the podcast. I've got David Pedracone, a UNF grad. He's a Magic fan and a Jags fan, so he hasn't had it very good in those regards. But that being said, he has seen two of the greatest players of all time in LeBron James and Michael Jordan. And David actually has a debate, I wouldn't say a debate, but some points that think this conversation is a little closer than most people would like to say it is. David, what are those points?
So for me, I only watched, the last few years of Jordan, growing up, watched Space Jam and
Of course.
watched all these documentaries and YouTube videos on Jordan. I love his competitiveness. He's probably one of the greatest competitors of all time. I myself am super competitive. So, just seeing a player like that,
Yeah.
I totally love it. Some guy that just doesn't like to win or doesn't like to lose, hates losing more than he likes winning. That's something I'm all about. So I love that about Jordan. But I feel like after Jordan retired, I feel like people tend to forget and just bash away at any player that probably is, threatening the throne. So,
Sure.
with that being said, I just think, LeBron's story as a whole, I think has to be recognized, and I don't want to say glorified, but I think people need to respect who he is as a player more often than what he gets. Because I feel like he's maybe one of the most criticized players of all time. And maybe
In
that's due
LeBron,
to,
right?
yeah, maybe that's due to the social media age, but man, I just feel like people criticize him more than any other player I've ever seen. But to me, like I really appreciate, LeBron because being a fan of these two teams, he has one of the greatest underdog stories I think I've ever seen. So,
Oof, I don't
you
I
know,
don't know about that one.
you don't think so? I mean, just think about it. Like, he is
He
single
was
parent
deemed the
home.
chosen one in
Coming out
high
of high
school.
school, yeah,
The
that's the
best high school
problem.
player to ever play.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like before that. Single parent home, had no
Yeah, that
father in
kind of
his
stuff.
life.
Yeah, that's
And,
fair.
he came into the league just out of high school, and Sports Illustrated deemed him as the chosen one. At 18, and
It's a big
talk
mantle.
about a lot of pressure on your shoulders, like from
That I
day
agree
one.
with.
And I feel like he's delivered. Every year, like the NBA is a better place with LeBron in it. We just
Totally.
saw last year,
Absolutely.
him not being in the playoffs. It makes a total difference. Um, so I think, you know, he's just one of those players that we just have. I certainly appreciate because great player on the court, even better person off the court,
True.
and
Very
a
true.
guy with no controversies. You see these NBA players, NFL players all the time with 100 baby mamas, like
Yeah.
Is that a shot at
off-field
Dwight
drug
Howard?
issues. Yeah, a little bit. Um, so taking all of these things into consideration, I really appreciate the person and the player that LeBron is. So with that being said, I almost feel for the guy sometimes because I feel like we're at the point in sports where it's so much about stats and winning, which of course winning is everything, but I think people don't look at the context of what LeBron does at times. So let's just say the 2007 and 2018 playoff run that he made, he took two of maybe the worst teams to the finals ever. And I think it sucks that for some Jordan fans, it would have been better for LeBron to just lose in previous rounds
To
than in
not
the
get to the
finals, because
finals, yeah.
and then just hold it like, oh well, he's 3-6 in the finals now. But when you look at it, he's only really not showed up against the Mavericks, and I think it sucks because statistically, like I
I'm going to
said,
disagree with that, but carry on.
okay, and
I knew you were going to, by the way. Sorry.
I think that sucks because LeBron has performed at this high stage year in and year out. High 20-point triple double games.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
I just feel like
he's an all-around player. He really is.
Yeah.
he for
So,
sure.
if I may,
Go ahead.
as far as what you're saying, like, absolutely. Just because, I'm very strongly in the Jordan's the GOAT camp doesn't mean that I don't appreciate what LeBron did. I don't appreciate what he does for the league. But I'm just saying because, even as a Heat fan too, he gave me 2 rings. I was expecting 7, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Same.
But he did give me 2 rings. I'm grateful for that. That said, Wade also gave me a ring with Shaq. And, as far as this whole LeBron conversation goes, longevity-wise, absolutely. GOAT of longevity. Completely. But if we're talking about the GOAT, greatest basketball player to ever play of all time, it's got to be Jordan. And there is big reason for that. Now, you're right. LeBron did have a heap of pressure put onto him as soon as he came out of the league. In high school, he was, the chosen one. Now, granted, he did embrace that name. It's tattooed on him.
Oh, for sure.
So he definitely took the, that expectation and ran with it. Here is where I'm going to say the difference is. So I don't feel that Jordan's teams were the best in the league without Jordan. I can't necessarily say the same about LeBron. And here's why. So you have Jordan when he first comes. All right, so let's just start in terms of pure clutchness, like last game, go ahead, winning shots. I think today this clutch stat statistic gets thrown around very loosely. If you play in a playoff game, whether it's a go ahead or whether you're down, they still consider that a clutch shot. To me, there's different variations of clutch shots. Some shots
definitely.
are more clutch than others. Game 7-3 at the end of the finals to tie it from Ray Allen is the clutchest shot in finals history, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Even though they didn't,
Greatest shot I've ever seen.
Even though they didn't win it all and from that shot. But, so with that said, so Jordan, his freshman year at UNC, hits a game winner for a national championship at the buzzer. Then we look at Jordan when he first gets drafted. He comes in to, before even playing a single game in the NBA, he was on the USA team, one of the greatest Olympic teams we've ever put together. The thing is, he already was the most talented player on the court that as soon as he hit the Olympics, and that's with guys on the team like Magic and all-time greats.
Right.
So he came into the league immediately, most talented player. I can't say the same about LeBron. LeBron did great things his rookie year. And I also would like to compare the Bulls, when Jordan was drafted to the Bulls, were basically the Cleveland Cavaliers when LeBron was drafted on. That Bulls team was atrociously bad.
Well, if I may, speaking of that Bulls team and LeBron coming into the league and Jordan coming into the league, they both came into teams that were atrociously bad. That's kind of the point of a high draft pick. But
for sure.
LeBron came into the league succeeding automatically. Jordan had to wait a minute.
Right.
That's a little. That's I think the thing that a lot of people in this conversation they'll kind of ignore. But anyway,
exactly.
to your point. Go ahead.
So okay. So let's reestablish a beginning part. So if you're the greatest of all time, every season is
championship or bust.
Championship or bust. Can we all agree on that?
I agree on that.
Yeah, for sure.
So okay, so we can, so the first 8 years of Jordan playing, obviously, he didn't win it all. Now he started making deep runs in the playoffs. So let's take a look at the teams that knocked him off. Because part of the reason why I think LeBron went to so many finals and Jordan didn't go to as many finals is because the East back in the day used to be the powerhouse.
True.
And the West was the cakewalk division. When LeBron was in the league, the East was the cakewalk division and the West was the powerhouse.
Right.
So, I think for the sheer reason that Jordan's, his division was harder, that's part of the reason why he didn't make as many finals as LeBron has already. Not to mention, LeBron has already played, I think it's something like 200 more games than Jordan. So longevity-wise, he's going to make, and especially LeBron's still going strong, he's going to make plenty more.
It's actually like
for sure.
196.
So I like to actually start the conversation from once Jordan wins his first ring, and same goes for LeBron. Once LeBron wins his first ring, that's where I like to actually start the conversation because that's when these guys really elevated themselves into really talented players to all-time greats. Because once you get that ring is once you get to start really getting into that conversation because
I agree.
That's what separates you.
Well,
so let's take a look once Jordan won his first ring. First of all, right before winning his – let's actually go 2 years before then. He takes this team. They go to play the Bad Boy Pistons. Back then, basketball was basically football. You weren't allowed to do – you were allowed to get away with so much what would be
the game back in the day was very physical.
Yeah, and so these Pistons teams had Dennis Rodman, Isaiah Thomas, and just a whole bunch of big bruisers.
Bill Lambier.
And Bill Lambier. So
I hate that guy.
Same.
Exactly. So they went and like pretty much beat Jordan up, beat Pippen up. They beat all these guys up, and they went on to win the championship. So that was a solid dynasty. Well, one more year. So then they get rid of the coach. They bring in Phil Jackson, and they really convinced Jordan, hey, passing, distributing, getting your teammates better, that's how you win. So they ended up having a great season, ran into the Pistons again in the Eastern Conference Finals, and again, the Pistons found a way to beat them, obviously, after, really physically beating them. So what does Jordan do? He gets in the gym, and this was revolutionary. People weren't really doing this back then. Like, he pretty much started this whole trend of guys getting in the weight room in the offseason, but he got in there. He got all of his teammates with him. He got the Pippen. He got everyone in the gym with him in the offseason. What happens? They go and they play that dynasty. They beat them in 4 games. And then they go on to play the Lakers, one of the best dynasties ever, and he ended that dynasty in 5 games. They crushed everybody, and it wasn't even close. Like, purely just destroyed them.
But would you say that the parity there is better in terms when you're talking about LeBron, like a lot of his teams in the cakewalk that is the East now, it's obviously very, very top heavy and such. The teams were a lot more difficult back then, and but you can't. To me, I feel like a lot of people slight LeBron, and David, I don't know what you think about this, but a lot of people slight LeBron for the competition not being as hard. But, I mean, LeBron is still dominating, which he should, of course, with the competition not being like it is.
To me, it's a catch-22, because if he lost to those teams, it would be even more detriment to his legacy. And then if he wins, it's just like, oh, well, those teams suck. I mean, he can only beat what's in front of him. At the end of the day, I think we really can't hold that against LeBron.
And another thing I was thinking from there would be, now we all kind of agree on that. So then if I put LeBron in Jordan's shoes and vice versa, how did those players work out? And I still think if LeBron was in Jordan's shoes, I think LeBron would have won 6 rings.
Oh, I think so too.
You don't think so?
I think so too, completely.
Absolutely not. No.
See, I want to hear why not. I got to hear it. I need to know.
So first of all, I want to take a couple points, because some people try to say that LeBron has played a tougher competition too. So not
what?
Yeah.
Who says that?
Because look at those the Golden State Warriors team.
That is a tough team.
I mean, that is the greatest team of all time.
But okay, so
and they got bailed out by injury, by the way. LeBron did.
They did.
Well, I'm not even talking about the 73 win team. I'm talking about the KD Warriors team.
Oh, that KD Warriors team with Clay.
That is the greatest team of all time.
Oof, that team is dirty. I don't know. Oh, greatest team of all time.
Anyways,
that's another conversation.
My point is that no dynasties existed during the Jordan era because he was the dynasty.
Yeah,
there have been dynasties during the LeBron era because LeBron hasn't quite had what I consider mental toughness to put his team over the top in close situations to win those games, and that's why these Spurs teams were able to have these dynasties while LeBron was in the league. Same for Golden State. To me, no dynasty could survive during the Jordan era because Jordan was the dynasty.
Yeah, damn.
They literally
I didn't look at it that way.
Yeah, there's only one dynasty during Jordan's era because he knocked off the Pistons. They had a dynasty until Jordan learned how to win. As soon as he learned how to win, that was the end of their dynasty. Same for the Lakers. Because they won 3 in a row. Obviously, tragically, Jordan's dad was murdered. He quit the NBA for a year. They obviously didn't win that year, but they changed that.
The only reason the Rockets have a championship is because Jordan decided not to play.
Man, I would have loved to have seen, a Rockets-Bulls championship.
Yeah, I mean, because Bulls in 4. But no, that's not fair. Yeah. Bulls in 6, probably.
Exactly. So, I still feel like Jordan would have won both of the.
Jordan would have won 8 straight if he did not retire. I really think that's a legit thing. I really do. Now, it's easy to speculate on that because Jordan has gone 3 and 6, right? So
LeBron.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't know if I said
3 and 9.
3. So he's 3 and 9.
3 out of 9.
3 out of 9.
Yeah.
So he's 3 and 6 and is for his record, and he's got a chance to make it 4 and 6.
Is what I'm going to add. So you said so David mentioned that he only didn't show up against the Mavs. Now, granted, he totally melted down against the Mavs.
Yeah, that was bad.
But I'm actually going to go a step further. I'm going to say he didn't show up really against the Spurs. It's not that he didn't show up. It's that he didn't show up when we needed him to, and we lost one of those finals to the Spurs as well.
Right, I remember.
Yeah. So I don't feel like he played well enough in the fourth quarter to deserve getting a pass. And I'm also going to put an asterisk by one of his rings because the Spurs were in the driver's seat to beat us in 6 when we're down. So we are down by 3. Baby Kawhi is on the free throw line and bricks the free throw to put the game out of reach. So let's just say 2 more years in the future, Kawhi drains that free throw. We're totally out of it. Anyway,
why would you put an asterisk on it? No,
you're fine. You're fine. Baby Kawhi misses. Like I said, I don't give Kawhi clutch points either. I don't consider Kawhi to be that clutch. Anyways, he misses the shot, even allowing for this to happen. But what happens? He gets the ball back. LeBron takes it down and LeBricks a 3. But Chris Bosh gets one of the most clutchest rebounds in finals history, kicks it to Ray Allen, who saves LeBron's bacon. Obviously, that totally crushed the Spurs' momentum and everything, and they basically rolled over at that point. So,
I mean, you're talking about players saving LeBron's bacon, though. It's not as if Kerr hasn't saved Jordan's bacon.
Yeah.
So, now, here's the difference. Here's how I look at that. Hold on, let me at least refute that.
Okay.
Because Kerr didn't save Jordan's bacon. That team was in the driver's seat to win. They just needed him to make the shot he was supposed to make. They weren't down in the series. They weren't down. They weren't about to lose, and Kerr hits a go-ahead shot to bring them into overtime to give them a fighting chance. They were already in the driver's seat to win the finals. They kicked a game-winning shot to Kerr, who made it, which, granted, to Kerr's credit, very clutch shot. Yeah. Very clutch shot. Totally deserves all the credit for it. Now, granted, I do give Jordan some credit because, obviously he was getting double-teamed, and so he did make a good basketball play.
Pass,
his teammate made the right play. Plus, throughout the course of the season, Jordan has prepared Kerr for, hitting shots like that. Not that LeBron doesn't, but there's something to be said about you play on a team with a guy all year. You set the expectation super high. Jordan was the first one in the gym, last one in the gym. You almost felt like you don't even want to be on the team if you're not going above and beyond, and Jordan will surely crush you for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So he mentally toughened all of those guys up. And so I'm not going to say that Kerr saved Jordan's bacon because genuinely that team didn't need save. If he misses that shot, they still probably win the next game.
Well, genuinely, that team didn't mean saving isn't fair because technically that LeBron team should have needed saving, but it happens. Sometimes it falls that way. We're closing in on the time when we got to wrap up, David. I want to give you the floor a little bit and kind of give you some time to talk about LeBron and Jordan here.
Okay, so with the last thing with the Spurs, I think. I don't like when people say that, Ray Allen or Kyrie Irving saved LeBron because at the end of the day, like I said before, it's a team sport. I think these players are doing what they're supposed to do. And in that Spurs game, I think LeBron had them in the position they were in. And, I think it's totally fine that,
he made a lot of
these players.
He made a lot of late game. He made a lot of late game shots, absolutely, to keep us in the game. My only contention was that we had the better team. So we shouldn't have been down.
But, I don't think that's only on LeBron. I think that's a team thing, So I kind of agree with that because the Bulls were a good team without Michael Jordan. But he definitely took them over the top. But with LeBron, he's a fantastic player nonetheless. But I feel like he hasn't always had the best team.
Can I ask you this?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you about 3 different teams and tell me if these teams would have been 50 wins. The Miami Heat with Wade and Chris Bosh, the Cavs with Kyrie and Kevin Love, and the Lakers with AD. Get rid of LeBron. Do those teams win 50 games?
I think only
the
AD
Heat team doesn't.
I think only the Heat team because we have seen.
You don't think the AD team wins?
No, the AD team
I don't think
not.
so because it would have just been like the Pelicans.
Exactly.
And this
they were
Lakers
never a
team
50-win
is not a good 3-point shooting team. So AD is just going to be kicking it out to these, KCP and Danny Green to be missing threes, So
hey, Danny Green is actually very clutch. He was on those Spurs teams.
He was.
Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I was rooting for those Spurs teams, so I know he was playing really well.
Not really. I hated both those teams, honestly. I was a Phoenix Suns fan. They tortured me. I was a Nash guy, so I was tortured for years.
Yeah, so, with that being said, I think the Heat team is definitely a 50-win team, but I think LeBron definitely takes them over the top. But with other dynasties being created while LeBron's in the league, I just think that's more of a testament to how good the NBA has become. I think right now we're at the day and age where we just have so many good players that I think it's in abundance now. I don't think I've ever seen the NBA have so much talent.
All right, Brandon, this is going to be your closing point here. Yep. Make this your closing point. I'll give David one more, and then we'll wrap it up.
If I may, LeBron actually is the one that created the whole super team dynamic. If LeBron would have stayed in Cleveland, not saying that I wasn't happy that he came to Miami, but if LeBron would have stayed in Cleveland
Disagree,
and said,
by the way,
hey,
that was Celtics that created the super team thing.
Fair enough. Okay, well, you can, whatever, chicken or the egg.
Yeah, there you go.
If LeBron, went over there, I actually think that they started creating this new dynamic, but I think it was in large part because, to me, none of those guys were the best of the best. So, yeah, the Celtics made a kind of super team with KG, Rondo, and Pierce, but none of those guys were ever in the GOAT discussion.
No,
definitely.
So that's why I say LeBron actually opened up his own can of worms because LeBron said, hey, Jordan's got all these rings. I'm getting a whole lot of pressure. I don't have enough rings yet. I'm not on pace. So he said, let's try and go to the best team so I can get some rings. And then by doing that, he made it easier on other star players because everyone went to LeBron's defense. Well, hey, the Cavs aren't doing anything, Their GM is terrible. Their owner's terrible. Their coach is terrible.
Which is true.
Yeah, that's all 100% true, though.
Yeah. But I actually think that LeBron is his own worst enemy in that case because he then he shouldn't have joined the Heat, which he should have joined a team that was like not already – because as soon as he went to that Heat team, they were the best team in the league. All the expectations were on them. He was on – preseason talking about seven rings.
Not one, not two, not three.
Yeah. I think he screwed himself with that.
That was a good press conference, though.
I think he actually started. So I think he's actually the one that started and caused all these super teams because KD then was like, KD looked at in the same thing. He's like, well, I think I'm the greatest of all time, and I don't have any rings yet, so I need to get some rings. So what is KD? He's like, well, let's do. LeBron just showed me how to do it. Let's go to the best team in the league.
Worst move ever.
All right. Well, with all that being said, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up here. I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. David, I think from Brandon and I just want to personally thank you. Thanks for joining us, man. That was awesome.
I just want to thank you guys for having me. I thoroughly enjoyed being on this with you guys.
Yeah, anytime you get a chance to come back on, we would love to have you. Brandon, do you have anything to say before we give David the floor here?
Heck yeah, absolutely. Thanks for joining us. We'll have you on more often.
Please do.
Right.
Yeah, and as always, like, comment, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. David, you've got the floor. Anything you got to plug? Anything you got going on? Let the people know, my friend.
Gotcha. So I guess I would just want to plug my Twitch. I try to stream video games sometimes. My Twitch is twitch.tv kicks on ice with 3 E's at the end. And I would just like to say that my GOAT is Wilt Chamberlain.
Oh, that's a conversation that we'll have.
Oh, Lordy.
Oh, gosh. All right. Well, as always, everybody, thank you very much for listening. You'll see us next clip. Thanks again.